Hey guys, welcome back to Karting with Chris. Today's video is going to be the Touring Kart Championship race here at Trackhouse Motorplex. So it's been a while since I last posted a video. If you're watching this when I post this video, it's been around 2 months since I've last posted. I've taken quite a bit of a break, and during that break I went all the way to Charlotte to race in this event. Now, I drove this event months ago. I raced here months ago, so I don't remember anything about this race. So you're going to be watching it in real time like me. Also, this is a TKC event. I've never done TKC, so the formatting's a little bit different. But the reason I am doing this is because the owners of TKC I am good friends with, and they invited me out here, and I couldn't say no. So first off, we're actually gridding up right now, and the way they do the gridding here is kind of weird. Usually they grid you in the pits and then you do your warm-up lap and start the race. Here you kind of just go out on track and they just point at you and tell you to go to your grid position. So it does take a while. I felt like it was a little inefficient, but this will give me time to explain to you kind of how this is going to work. Also, they required us to wear these stupid neck braces. I hate these things. So if you come here and you own a neck brace, make sure you bring it. Alright, so here's how this whole thing works. It's a little confusing. If you've got questions after I explain this, please let me know. And maybe go to the TKC website. It probably explains it a little better. But this is the pre-final right here. And before the pre-final, we had practice/qualifying. It was only one session. And so I did not do very well. This is my first time here. A lot of these people are locals. If not, they've been here many times before. So I didn't do too well. I got P3 in the B main. So there's an A main and a B main. A main is full of the top 20 drivers. B main is full of the bottom 20 drivers. So I was third in the B main. And so the way it works is for the pre-final, it's a reverse grid. So I'm starting third to last. And wherever you finish in the pre-final, you get points towards the championship. Now, I'm not going for any championship because this is an East Coast-based championship, so that wouldn't work out for me. And then for the final, you start the final wherever you qualified. So I'm going to be starting the final in third place. Now, one more thing to note is that the minimum weight here is 200 pounds. So if you weigh less than 200 pounds, they had these lead sheets that you could sit on. And let me tell you, I'm sitting on a lot of lead sheets, so if I look a little taller than normal, that's why. So the only person I know in this session is the person directly in front of me, and that's Sam. Now, I've raced with him before, and he's a very fast driver, so hopefully we can work together, but you're about to see him raise his hand and go into the pits. The reason he does that is because he doesn't like his kart. Very quickly, you start to figure out what karts are good and what karts aren't very good. And he already knew he didn't have a very good kart. So you're allowed to swap your kart once per race, but you're going to have to go to the back. So if you do that, that is the risk you're going to have to take. Now, I'm going to be using the slingshot strategy for the start of this race. I've done last to first challenges a lot on my channel, so I'm not new to this. And usually the slingshot effect can be good when done properly. So I'm going to hold back here. And right when the flagman waves green, we're allowed to leave the tram lines and go for it. And you can see just how good of a run I get. Everyone was slowed down by each other, and so I get such a good slingshot. I was down in 18th, move up into 10th here, and we've gained 8 positions within the first couple of corners. So looking up ahead, we're about to see someone go off into the grass onto the left here. I mean, he's opening up the corner to new heights here. He's doing a little Tokyo drift around the outside. I get lunged on the inside, but I do the old switcheroo on them. Gaining 3 positions now. We're up in the 7th. Make that 6. We get another one going through this complex of corners here. The guy in front of me does not get a very good exit, so I'm going to lunge him through the hairpin up here. Now, these karts have terrible brakes, but I didn't know that until this point right here, where I accidentally go for the double overtake. I get it done temporarily, but my exit is compromised. And so we move back down into 5th place. So we do gain 1 position out of the whole thing, but I think we could have maintained 4th had we hit our braking spot. So we started in 18th, finishing lap 1 in 5th. Not too bad. Now, some of you might be wondering about track limits. For this race, there are no track limits, so you don't have to worry about that. There are barrier penalties, so if you hit some of the barriers, you will get penalized. So this barrier right here, obviously if you ram through that, you're going to get an advantage. And so if you touch that barrier, you get a 5-place penalty. And there are 2 other barriers that you can't touch. I'll point them out as we pass them. But if you hit one of those barriers, you get a 5-place penalty. So the second barrier that you cannot touch, and when I mean touch, I mean scrape it, and you get a penalty, is this barrier right here, the white one on the right. If you touch that, you also get a 5-place penalty. As I'm looking to pass this guy in red here, noticing a lot of the people in front fighting. They're not really working together, which is good for me, because it'll allow me to be able to pass them. So I try passing the guy in red, try and maybe hold it around the outside, and he gives me the room, and we get the job done. We're up in the 4th place here, and we're about to go up to the last barrier you can't hit. So this barrier, this blue one on the left here, you can't touch it. I almost touched it there, but I didn't quite touch it, and fortunately I did not get a penalty for it. So at this point, there's a bit of a gap to me and the 2 in front, and the guy in first has pulled away quite a bit as well. So at this point, we just gotta put our head down, try and catch up to them. There was a lot of talk of people having bad karts and people having good karts. This kart did not feel bad, so I knew that I at least had a chance of trying to catch up to these guys. You can see they are trading positions a fair bit here, so if they keep on fighting, I'll be able to catch up to them. But also, if they keep fighting, and if I fight them, the guy in first will just walk away from us. So we do have to be smart about how we handle this race, but at this moment, all I can do is try and drive as fast as possible. So we're going to skip ahead a couple of corners here, and we're coming through the exit of turn 1 here. And the guy in second just taps the barrier right there. Now technically, that is a 5-place penalty, but you should never race as if you know someone has a penalty, because sometimes the officials, had their head turned and they didn't see it. So you should always try and finish ahead of someone, even if you know for sure that they have a penalty. You should always try and finish on track rather than finishing off track, if that makes sense. So at this point in the race, we can see that we've kind of caught up to the 2 in front, just a little bit, but in front of them, they've definitely caught up to the guy in first. So I'm hoping that the 3 in front will battle a little so I can catch up to them and I can start making positions, because at the moment, I'm not quite close enough to go for any moves. That'd be one hell of a dive bomb. But we're only on lap 4, or starting lap 5. So we still have plenty of time left in this race, and I'm thinking P1 is a definite reality here. But exiting turn 1, the guy in first taps the barrier there, and that one was a little more pronounced than the time before. So if the officials were looking, we've got 2 people in front of us who should have penalties, but like I said, you should never race as if people have penalties. You should always finish on track. So going through this left-hander up ahead, the guy in second is going to go a little wide, and the person in third kind of follows him. That's going to ruin their momentum going down into this hairpin up ahead. And so this is really going to close the gap for me. And now we're a couple kart lengths away from the person in third. So now we can start thinking about how we're going to try and get around these people. So obviously, I want to do it as easily as possible and then pull away from them, but that's easier said than done. My main strategy is to maybe work together and try and get ahead of this guy in first. I kind of thought that this guy in first was a little slow, and he was kind of just holding us up. So I was going to do whatever it takes to work together and try and pass him. So this guy in the blue and red suit here, I thought he had decent pace, so I pushed him through the first corner here. Still going side by side with the guy who's in the red suit. Sorry, I don't know the kart numbers or the names. But we're in P3 now. Now we just got to try and get ahead of the red and white suit guy and try and pass the person in first, because what I don't want to happen is us fight so much trying to pass the guy in first that the guy in first just ends up pulling away. So going into this left-hander up ahead, I get a pretty good run, and I just say, screw it, I'm just going to try and do it on my own here. I don't care about working together with anyone. So I move up into second place here. The guy in first gets a terrible run, kind of ruins my momentum. but we've got the inside for the next couple of corners, so we're able to maintain second place here. And now we're right behind the guy in first. I tap my helmet, telling the people from behind to work together with me. Let's focus on this guy. Let's not fight too much. And so I pull out to the side here, and I get a tap from behind, so they are pushing me down the straight here. Through the first couple of corners, they are pretty wide corners, so you are able to hold it around the outside, and that's what the guy in first tries to do. And then coming through, this is turn 3, I believe, the two behind just decided to work together and freight train us both, so this is not good for me. And so going through this long right-hander here, the person on my left holds it around the outside, and I'm going to have to concede the position here because it's very hard to go single file through these next couple of corners. So I was temporarily up into first, but now I'm back down into fourth. But like I said, I just want to get ahead of this guy who's on my right now because I know he was off pace and I didn't want the two in front to work together and pull away from us. So I instantly look for the move on the guy who's behind me. Sorry, I don't know the names and numbers. But we're up into third place now. We don't have to worry about him anymore. I think we can safely pull away from him. We don't have a whole lot of laps left in this race. Unfortunately, there weren't flagmen telling us if we had 2 to go, if we were halfway through the race. So very hard to tell at what stage in the race you are in. All you get is a white flag and a checkered flag. So we just got to act like every lap's the last lap here. Now, going through turn 4 up ahead, I believe this is turn 4, the guy in first going defensive. He definitely wants to maintain the lead. Guy in second looking for the move, but doesn't quite get it done. Now, at this point, I'm trying to figure out what to do. So the guy behind me in fourth, I don't really care about him, not too worried about him. I thought he didn't have the best pace in the world, so I don't think he's going to pass me. I just got to try and figure out if number 2, or P2, sorry, is fast enough. Because if he's fast enough, then maybe I'll work together with him and we can both pass the guy in first. But if he's not fast enough, and he's not capable of passing the guy in first, then I'll try and pass P2 and just pass the guy in first myself. Now, unfortunately, the two in front were pretty evenly matched, along with myself. And we kind of just stayed behind them, couldn't quite make the move. Like I said, I had no idea what lap we were on, and so going down the straight here, I see the white flag. I look behind me just to make sure there are no surprises, and there's no one behind me. And so now I've got 1 lap to try and pass the 2 people in front. So I first got to try and get rid of this guy in first, or this guy in second here. So I look towards the inside into this right hand right here. I brake early. I knew he was going to go in deep, and so he sacrifices his exit, and so we get the job done. We're up into second place now, but the guy in first, he's pretty far ahead, and so it's going to be pretty hard to try and catch up to him and pass him all within this lap, but nothing's impossible. I look behind me, go semi-defensive into this left-hander. I didn't want him sending it up the inside. Fortunately, the guy in third did not, and so we are catching up to the guy in first here, but it's not enough. There's only a couple corners left in this race. Hopefully he screws up the last corner. That's our only shot here because we can't send it from this distance. This is the last corner right here. He does screw it up and we do catch up to him, but it wasn't enough and we finished in second place. Now, I'm not going to lie, that was probably one of the best races I've had in a rental kart race, so good job to everyone who was in that race. Really good driving. Yeah, I really couldn't ask for more, other than flag workers who tell you what lap you're on. But yeah, we started in 18th, finished in second, so not too bad. Net gain of 16 positions, so I'm happy with that. And technically, the guy who got first hit one of the barriers, so technically I should have been in first, but you know, I don't really care about it. It's just a pre-final, and it's only points towards a championship that I don't really care about. But the video is not going to end here because there's still the final race to go. Alright, so we're in the final race now. We're on the formation lap. And we're starting P3. So like I said before, wherever you qualify, that's where you start in the final race. So I qualified P3 in the B main. I'm starting P3 in the final race. Now, because this is the B main, whoever finishes first in the B main gets to advance to the A main. I think they start last in the A main. So the goal is to get first place here so we can move on to the A main and maybe get a trophy in the A main. Now the first thing I notice is that the guy starting in first, the guy directly in front of me, he's the pole sitter. He's going really fast on this formation lap, and he dictates the pace. And I noticed he was very inconsistent. So going into this race, I knew he was going to be the death of me at the start of this race. So as soon as the flagman waves green, I pull out to the left and pass him, and that was obviously the smart thing to do. I knew he was not going to get a good start just based off of how slow he was going. And so we're immediately up into second place here. The guy who was in second, going side by side with me through the first couple of corners, but we did have the inside, and we're up into first place here. So I tap my helmet, telling the guy behind me to work together with me, because obviously when you're in first place, you don't want a lot of people battling. And also, if he's quick enough, maybe it can just be us battling for P1, because everyone wants P1 to advance to the A main. So I was hoping that maybe he'd work together with me. But going through this left-hander right here, I just completely missed my braking zone, going way too deep, and the guy in second passes me, and unfortunately we moved down into second place. Now at this point, I'm not too upset. It is a long race. As you can see, it's 15 laps long, so it is pretty long. And honestly, I don't mind working together with this guy in first. I think he was in the pre-final, and he had decent pace, so I know he's a decent driver. So if he's got the pace and he's got a decent kart, then maybe he's alright to work together with. You can see he's already pulling away from me, so maybe I should have kept him behind me a little better, because now he's going to probably pull away and get first place. So at this point, I got to try and focus and try and set the qualifying laps, because the last thing I want for him to do is just check out of this race. And unfortunately, that is exactly what happens. As you can see, he's ever so slightly pulled away from me, and actually Sam, who I referenced earlier in this video, has caught up to me as well. He got a really fast kart, and like I said, he's a very fast driver. And so him and a friend freight trained me going into turn 4 back there. So we moved down into 4th place, and unfortunately going into this hairpin up ahead, I just totally missed my braking zone here and had to take evasive action not to hit the back of them. Fortunately, the person who was behind Sam is now in front of Sam, so they're fighting a little bit here. Now I will say Sam was the faster driver here. He actually set the fastest lap of this session, so I'm going to try and follow Sam, deploy a little teamwork power here. And so I try and follow him going through the last corner there. And so we move up into 3rd place here. And I'm just going to try and follow Sam's line, see what he's doing, see what I'm not doing. And the main thing I notice is that through turn 4 here, he just carries a lot more speed than me. So going through this right-hander, you can see he just carries a lot more speed, and he just pulls away just a couple kart lengths just there alone. And so for the next lap, I try replicating what he did. And so I tried going in with a little bit more speed here, and I just get a lot of understeer, and he just pulls away from me again. So I don't know exactly what he was doing through that corner, but it was that corner is where I noticed he would pull away from me the most. It might be my kart just has a little bit more understeer than his, but yeah, he was definitely faster than me through there. So Sam, you're one hell of a driver. Now, unfortunately, Sam and the guy in first pulled away from me quite drastically. As you can see here, we're on the last lap now, and the two in front are way ahead of me. I was slowly getting very tired throughout this race. The day before this race, I stayed up pretty late, partying, you know me. But we're on the last lap here, and the guy who was fighting with Sam and I earlier is still behind me. He's right on my bumper. He was behind me the entire race. So, you know, he was keeping me on my toes, making sure I don't mess up. But I didn't feel like he had the pace to pass me, or else he would have. And so going into this left-hander right here, I think he just did a last-ditch effort to try and pass me. And so he just kind of dive-bombed me into the hairpin. But through the next couple of corners, I'm going to have the inside, and so it's not going to really matter because I'm just going to pin him around the outside. He does temporarily get ahead of me right here, but like I said, I've got the inside. I'm not too worried. and going through the last corner here, we're gonna get up into third place again, and we're gonna come home with a third place. So overall, not too bad. I mean, we started in third and we finished in third, so a net gain of 0. Definitely could have been better. We were in first temporarily there. I think had I had a little bit more experience on this track and been maybe a little less tired, the outcome might have changed. But overall, had a lot of fun here. I highly recommend doing some of the TKC races. I'll leave a link to their website down below. They don't just do GoPro. They actually only do GoPro, I think, once a year. So they do a bunch of other tracks. Definitely worth checking out if you live on the East Coast. But that's all I'm going to have for today. Again, huge shout out and huge thanks to the guys at TKC for inviting me out here. Definitely loved it. Can't wait for the next one. But that's all I'm going to have for today. If you liked the video, please consider subscribing. If you have any questions, suggestions, or opinions, please do comment below. Thank you guys for watching, and have a good day.